Here are a couple of statistics. It says the virus has infected 117 people so far. It's killed 60. The death rate nearly 50%. Most people have been infected through close contact with infected poultry. In rare cases, the virus is believed to have spread among family members through close contact. If the virus learns to spread readily from person to person through the air, it could cause a pandemic that rivals the worst.
I think that there's no virus that's going to even happen. I think it's all, put up by the news, and I think that we don't have any reason to worry about it.
We're hearing a lot recently about the threat of a new pandemic, the avian flu. It's quite lethal, transmitted through close contact with birds to people who work and live near birds.
Fortunately, this virus has not figured out how to efficiently transmit itself from human to human.
Infected people, in other words, cannot infect other people. The question is, will they ever be able to? And if so, how? Terrence Tumpy believes he can find the answers by experimenting with a flu that transmitted and killed very well, the 1918 virus.
By having this in hand, we can actually try to understand better how these pandemic flu viruses work.
There was just one small problem. The 1918 virus hadn't been around for 9 decades.
No one had ever been able to study the 1918 virus, this horrible killer virus, because there were no isolates.
No living samples. But biologist Jeffrey Taubenberger, searching through preserved tissue samples of World War I soldiers, was able to recover the 1918 flu's genetic code.
We felt like it was important to actually reconstruct this virus.
That's right, he said reconstruct. Rebuild the 1918 flu from scratch. One of the most lethal viruses we've ever known. They created a living 1918 virus so nasty that when Tumpy exposed lab mice to it, they were all dead in just 3 days. So, these two deadly viruses attack similar parts of the lungs. But that still doesn't answer the biggest question. Will the avian flu ever transmit from people to people like the 1918 virus did? Now Tumpy is planning to do something pretty radical. Put the hemagglutinin gene from the 1918 flu virus into the avian flu virus to see if he can create an avian flu virus that can spread from person to person.
You want to combine H1 1918 with H5.
What's going on there?
I think it'll be important as a set of experiments to understand how H5N1 works. And by mix and matching it with genes from a virus that actually did that quite well, the 1918 virus, we were hopeful that we can figure that out.
me provide for you an update in terms of where we are today and what kinds of public health actions are being taken here as well as abroad. Today, we can confirm that there are 20 cases of swine flu in the United States. We have 5 affected states. There are 8 cases confirmed in New York City. There's 1 case confirmed in Ohio, 2 in Kansas, 2 in Texas, and 7 in California. And again, as we continue to look for cases, I expect that we're going to find them.
The danger to our country is grave. The danger to our country is growing. The Iraqi regime possesses biological and chemical weapons. The Iraqi regime is building the facilities necessary to make more biological and chemical weapons.
Find them. We've ramped up our surveillance around the country to try and understand better what is the scope, what is the magnitude of this outbreak. The good news, all of the individuals in this country who have been identified as cases have recovered. Only 1 individual had to be hospitalized. But I expect as we continue to look for cases, we are going to see a broader spectrum of disease. Over time, what we say about this and what we learn will change.
I've heard this theory about, everything was just fine until we arrived, and then, kind of the stir up the hornet's nest theory. It just doesn't hold water as far as I'm concerned. The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing, except for it's part of, and nobody's ever suggested in this administration that Saddam Hussein ordered the attack. Iraq was the lesson of September 11th is take threats before they fully materialize.
The first thing I want to announce today is that the Department of Health and Human Services will declare today a public health emergency. We have 50 million treatment courses of antiviral drugs, Tamiflu and Relenza, in the Strategic National Stockpile. We are releasing 25% of those courses, making them available to all of the states, but particularly prioritizing the states where we already have confirmed incidents of the flu. In addition, the Department of Defense has procured and strategically pre-positioned 7 million treatment courses of Tamiflu. Screen individuals who may arrive at our borders. All persons entering the United States from a location of human infection of swine flu will be processed through all appropriate CBP protocols. Right now, those are passive. That means that they're looking for people and asking about, are you sick? Have you been sick? And the like. And if so, then they can be referred over for further examination. Travelers who do present with symptoms, if and when encountered, will be isolated per established rules. They will be provided both with personal protective equipment, and we will continue to emphasize universal health measures like hand washing and gloves. And if and when the situation develops, all CBP sites can implement and we can deploy additional personnel to the borders.
Reynolds on our Independence line. Hi there.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to comment and say that we shouldn't be too alarmed at the moment with this new flu strand. About 35,000 people die from the flu every year. Not that that's to be taken lightly, but we should definitely take precautions. Use Clorox and vinegar. Vinegar and water goes a long way, because they wash your hands like they say. But I also think we should be suspicious about what's going on. This new strand, they say that's something that they've never seen before. So we should definitely ask a lot more questions, and the media should ask more questions about where this strand comes from and how it was created. I think it was actually created by man. And also, my last comment is that the Secretary of Homeland Security declared an emergency, and we should definitely examine the executive orders that were put in place by Bush of what happens new powers that the president receives and the funds that can be released, I think that has a lot to do with it, and we should definitely investigate.
All right, Reynold from New York, from the Bronx, and post here. They have a photograph here of international the airport. Some of the airports are using photo screening, some biometric temperature scanning of passengers as they come in and out of airports.
Live picture from the Dirksen Senate office building on Capitol Hill for a hearing on President Obama's emergency war funding request for 2009. The witnesses are Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in the center of your picture there, and Defense Secretary Robert Gates. Besides money for Iraq and Afghanistan, the request also includes $1.5 billion to fight flu outbreaks.
In late April, WHO announced the emergence of a novel influenza A virus. This particular H1N1 strain has not circulated previously in humans. The virus is entirely new. The virus is contagious, spreading easily from one person to another and from one country to another. As of today, nearly 30,000 confirmed cases have been reported from 74 countries. This is only part of the picture. With few exceptions, countries with large numbers of cases are those with good surveillance and testing procedures in place. Spread in several countries can no longer be traced to clearly defined chains of human-to-human transmission. Further spread is considered inevitable. I have conferred with leading influenza experts, virologists, and public health officials. In line with procedures set out in the international health regulations, I have sought guidance and advice from an emergency committee established for this purpose. On the basis of available evidence and these expert assessments of the evidence, the scientific criteria for an influenza pandemic have been met. I have therefore decided to raise the level of influenza pandemic alert from phase 5 to phase 6. The world is now at the start of the 2009 influenza pandemic.
It was supposed to be a deadly pandemic, but it's so far nothing more than a serious cold. And it's left a lasting headache as a debate rages over whether pharmaceutical companies deliberately misled governments about the seriousness of swine flu to make them stockpile vaccines. The legal standards organisation, the Council of Europe, will gather the arguments.
Britain has spent a fortune on preparations. We've caused a great deal of stress to the population. People are very anxious about it. And we've distorted the priorities of our health service. And I believe when we have a thorough investigation and we look at this, we'll discover that that's the story. The world has been subjected to a stunt for their own greedy interests of the pharmaceutical companies.
European countries bought billions of dollars worth of vaccine from pharmaceutical companies, including Baxter, GlaxoSmithKline, and Sanofi Pasteur. Some of the contracts included a clause where governments could get out of buying the drugs if they were no longer needed. But some, notably ones with GlaxoSmithKline, did not. At the height of the pandemic, it was predicted that around 65,000 people in Britain would die. So far, there have been only 360.